Listen up. The views, thoughts, and opinions expressed in this podcast belong solely to the podcast participants, and not to any participant's employer, organization, committee, or other group or individual. This podcast is for entertainment purposes only. You know, for fun. So lighten up and enjoy. Oh, Stomping Jen, here we are again. I'm so excited. Do you know? Hi. Do you know who we're talking to?
Who are we talking to?
On this episode, we are talking to Belchertown, Massachusetts' very own Chris Snow. He is the owner of Chubby's Ice Cream and Grill and the Rustic Fusion Catering and Food Truck.
Woohoo!
I'm really excited to talk to him about his businesses here in our town.
You look very serious tonight.
This is going to be a serious conversation, Stomping Jen. It's
like
about my favorite. It's about my favorite thing, food.
All right.
Are you ready?
Let's get to it.
Okay, here we go.
The Soft Serve Podcast.
Creamy, delicious ideas without the creepy truck. All right, Stomping Jen.
I was just thinking,
What?
I miss soft serve at Chubby's.
I know.
It's one of my favorite things to get.
And speaking of Chubby's Ice Cream and Grill, we have Chris Snow on the podcast with us tonight. Hello, Chris.
Hey guys, how we doing?
Really good. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I feel like we're talking to a local celebrity of sorts because our family absolutely loves your restaurant.
It's true.
Thank you guys.
Yeah, we probably, when it's open, eat there at least once a week. Mm-hmm. And, I think it's been an institution as long as we've lived here in town, right, Stomping Jen?
Yeah, I don't think he owned it the entire time we've been here, though.
Yeah, but the restaurant's been here.
The restaurant's been here, yeah.
So we're going to talk a little bit about all of that. But first, Chris, we just wanted to say hi and kind of give you an opportunity just to tell us a little bit more about yourself.
All right. This is what I love to do, talk about myself, but that's okay. We're going to wing it here.
Okay.
Now, I'm a native from Belchertown. So grew up here, went off and did what I call my national tour after graduating high school and college, and made my way back here. So I've been a 50-50 resident for about the last, let's say 12 years, but now just back in full time. Mm-hmm. So I'm back here. I've owned Chubby's this is going to be the 9th season coming up. Pretty excited there. So that was, I don't think it was ever a dream of me owning Chubby's, but it's something that just came on at one time, one discussion, and then, we took things from there.
And was that a discussion with the previous owners or owner?
Yeah, actually I sat down with my father. We were just chatting about, what's the next phase? What do I want to do? And he said, hey, you know what? I just saw that Chubby's was coming up for sale. So sat down with the prior owner. I went in, checked it out a couple times, thought about what I would like to do with it. And the whole process took maybe about a week and a half.
Oh, wow.
We're pretty much done.
Yeah. And was that a scary decision to make, buying a restaurant and becoming the person responsible for running it?
No. Since I graduated college, I've been running food establishments. So, but I was on the massive scale. So I would feed between 80 and 100,000 people at sporting events.
Oh, wow.
Oh my gosh.
In my mind, it's like, this is easy. I can do a little restaurant, only open 7-8 months out of the year. That's not that hard. Well, let me tell you, running a NASCAR race course is a little bit easier than running Chubby's during a nice sunny April.
Oh wow! So is that where you had your previous I don't want to call it industrial food experience, but it almost sounds like that in a way. It was doing cooking and food prep for NASCAR?
Well, no, I would run the facility. So I was the general manager, the area manager for professional sporting and entertainment facilities throughout the country. So probably about 1/4 of the major league ballparks and at least 10 or 12 arenas and major tracks, things of that nature, concerts, concert venues. Mm-hmm. So I would coordinate all the food and beverage aspects, merchandise sales, things of that nature. But doing the cooking myself, very little.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Very little. Yeah.
Wow. So I know you mentioned you grew up here in Belchertown. My understanding is your family has lived here in Belchertown, Massachusetts for a long time, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like multiple generations?
Yeah, multiple generations here in town. I sit and I talk with some of the other individuals that I grew up with in town and others that owned businesses back then. And really it came down to they either worked for my family or maybe 3 other families. And those are the only jobs that kids had in town.
Oh, wow.
So when I bought Chubby's, that was one of the ideas that I had, was to give it a place for kids in town to go and get their first job.
Yeah. And I think that's a experience of a lot of teenagers. I know my first job was at a McDonald's in a mall. I mean, this is way back when, 30 something years ago, but it was a lot of fun. I enjoyed working in the kitchen and, all of that stuff. I loved it.
It's an eye opener. When you work in a restaurant, doesn't matter where you're working in a restaurant. It really is an eye opener. People think, I can do that. Oh, it's easy to do that. But when, like I said, in a busy, nice, bright, sunny April weekend, it gets a little crazy, but it's a fun crazy.
Yeah, especially when, you're a younger person, you want to maybe be outside, running around. There's a long line of cranky people who want their ice cream or their food.
Yeah.
But
I always tell my new team members, don't get sick on the first nice sunny weekend of the summer. So.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely not.
So tell us a little bit about your brick and mortar restaurant, Chubby's Ice Cream and Grill. What do you do there? What's the idea?
Okay, so when I bought Chubby's, it had pretty much morphed into a pizza restaurant without pizza. That was basically the menu that was there, plus ice cream. And I knew that we were missing something. In town, there's not a lot of options, so there was a lot of room to grow. And what I wanted to do was take the menu, take the operation itself, and just add some creativity, add some flair to it, add some excitement into the menu, so that people can say, hey, I got this over here. Hey, you see what's new at Chubby's this year? And the barbecue was one of the additions that we added on. I keep on toying with. But it's trying to do as much as possible in-house, not just dump stuff out of a box, so that when somebody gets items from us, whether it's food or ice cream, they know what was put into it.
And I think that is been key, and it's why we go there so often, because
Thank you.
It totally comes through in the food.
Yeah, I have to say, the first time I think we walked in there, maybe many years back after you bought it and kind of saw the re-envisioned Chubby's, I was shocked how creative the menu was. Like you said, you have these really creative selection of burgers and sandwiches that aren't burgers, all different types of sandwiches. And I said, wow, there's a really creative mind behind this menu. I was actually surprised by that.
We didn't know you.
We didn't know. We didn't know.
Kind of the best kept secret. That's one of the things we say. We're kind of the best kept secret. Well, we kind of need to get that word out there.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because like I'll tell people all the time, I'm like, you would be surprised. I mean, because from the outside, it's a small shop, it's a small restaurant. Yep. It kind of has that fast food look to it. So you don't know what to expect. And then you go in there and it's, counter service. And so again, with the fast food, but the food is excellent. You do a great job.
Thank you. Yeah. I got a good team.
Yeah. How do you approach kind of the menu planning process? Like, how do you pick that wide variety of sandwiches and burgers? Do you have a process, or are those just things that you're like interested in personally?
It's more my personal interests. I love to go out to dinner or stop in that hole in the wall place. That's what I gravitate towards, not the chain restaurants. And I see what other people are doing, and say, hey, you know what? I think I could do that. Or, hey, you know what? Let me see what I could do with this and add a twist to it. And a lot of people ask me what's my favorite item on the menu, and I can't tell them because my answer is always, if I don't love it, it doesn't go on the menu. Yeah. So I'll eat everything on the menu. I love it. Yeah. But I like to have fun. I like to just find new ways to approach items. And it might be an item that's been around for a long time. Burgers have been around forever, but how can you make them different? How can you make the fish and chips different from what everybody else is doing? Mm-hmm. Or a sandwich? So it's making a memorable experience when you're eating.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and one of the things I love too is the decor and the atmosphere kind of has that 50s, 60s diner-ish vibe, and it's a great juxtaposition to the really creative like culinary menu, I find.
Thank you.
Did you set out to design that particular aesthetic to kind of like a throwback to that era?
Well, I think that was a really fun era. Whenever you see movies about that era or read about them, it seemed like a really fun time, a neat time. And so when you look at pictures or videos of the old diners, and that was just a cool thing to do. So I looked at it as, well, I want people to be happy when they come in. I want them to feel comfortable when they come in. And that's just what I went with. And every year I seem to change it up just a little bit, add a little bit here, add a little bit there.
Yeah.
So I just want it to be nice, relaxed, let people just enjoy themselves, place where families can go and not worry about the bar scene or anything else.
Yeah, and you always see people singing along to
the
music.
I know I love all that music from that era, so I'm always like singing my fool head off.
My team's asked me to get another 30 or 40 songs on that rotation. After an 8-hour shift, you've heard it a few times. So.
Yeah, but I think there is something about that music and that aesthetic that like does make people happy. I definitely like people seem happy when they're in there. And the other thing I absolutely love about Chubby's Ice Cream and Grill in Belchertown, Massachusetts is you have this giant chalkboard, right? That covers one of the walls. And, it was great when our kids were younger. We could just go in there, like, sit down for dinner and just let our kids
they go straight for the wall,
go over to the chalkboard. Like that is such a great addition.
Thank you. Makes ordering a little challenging sometimes when you gotta
pull them away.
Exactly what do they want. You gotta pull them away, but yeah, that was another thing, another big addition where it gave the parents time to relax also in an environment where they knew where the kids were, what they were doing, where they were right there. But the parents could also have a conversation while the kids are drawing on the chalkboard, amusing themselves while you're waiting for your food.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm thinking about when we have people come and visit us in town, Your restaurant is one of the places we always take people. We're like, oh, you've got to come here. This is like our favorite in-town restaurant. This is the place we go to all the time. You've got to come and experience that. And you mentioned before that you took Chubby's over from somebody and have continued the business. And I'm curious if you ever think about what it's like to be responsible for running like a long-standing institution in town, because it is, in a way, like that's the place we take people when they come and visit us.
Yeah, it was when I was a kid, and I wanted to make sure that it remained that way.
Yeah,
that was very important to me when I bought it. To run a restaurant, it is definitely not as easy as what people might think. It's a challenge. You have to be dedicated to it. You need to find a way to find a dedicated team. You have, it's not easy, but there's gratifications that you get from running a restaurant that go far beyond the financials. When you can see the kids coming in, you can see the families coming in, and you see the smiles on their faces. When you see kids that are coming in that all of a sudden they start working for you because you've been there for so long, that's pretty neat. So it was really challenging this year for my team and myself because we weren't able to see people coming in because of the pandemic. And that was one of the things that we realized how much we missed seeing all of the families and the kids coming in. Yeah. But that's what you get out of running a restaurant. If you truly are in it for more than just the financials, which you better be.
Yeah, right. Right.
So you've got to love it. You got to love what you're doing, and take it to the next step. Always. Yeah. Always think about what's the next thing that you can do.
Yeah. And in regards to the pandemic, are there ways that you were able to connect with some of those regular customers that you might otherwise see in person? Like, did people go out of their way to, kind of in some way make it known, hey, we're getting pickup, or we're doing, something, they write cards or anything like that?
Well, I think for us with the pandemic, it was not as hard for my team to transition than it would be for many other establishments. We already have done so much takeout that it wasn't a hard thing for us to just do a little bit more. What we found with the pandemic and our area of success, or our success, came from being very open, very straightforward with the team, and also with our customers. We tried to stay one step ahead of whatever pandemic regulations were coming down. We tried to make sure that whatever we were doing, that our guests were going to feel comfortable with. We tried to find a way that made it easy for them. But having the confidence to come out and to see us because we're doing the right thing also. That was the trust of our guests was paramount.
Yeah.
We needed to make sure that we had their trust.
In food service is an industry where safety is really important to begin with anyways. I mean, you have to follow protocols in terms of like wearing gloves and all of that stuff. So I would imagine, having to like add masks or additional kind of protocols might not have been so challenging from your perspective as a restaurateur, but I think
the glove wearing, the washing of the hands, things of that nature for my establishment was not that big of a deal. Wearing the mask while on a grill on the hotline, that was a little challenging. But in talking with many Board of Health inspectors throughout the region, one of the things that we were stating as a whole was that it made a lot of establishments get a lot better. Yeah. And I would love to say that every place that you go into is spotless clean and everybody's wearing gloves and doing what they're supposed to do. But we all know that isn't the case. But with the pandemic, it's really gotten a lot of people back on track to where they should be.
Yeah.
In other establishments. So there's a positive spin of this. I think that's definitely one right up there.
Yeah. I think too, like, your establishment was one of the leaders, I think. And for restaurants, it was like, like a model for a lot of restaurants, the way that you handled things with your signage and with, social media and, making sure people were social distancing and wearing a mask. And
yeah, that was pretty neat, actually. We didn't set out to do that, but I got calls from 4 different Board of Health agencies. I got calls from more than a dozen restaurants and asking, okay, what are you doing with this? How are you handling this? And I thought that was really nice. It was really nice to be able to help other people out with that, and to get that recognition that we were doing the right thing.
Yeah. I mean, and now that we have vaccines on the horizon, I'm looking forward to the doors reopening.
Yeah.
Hopefully at some point when it's safe to do so.
I think everybody is.
Yeah, definitely.
Stomping Jen mentioned social media, and one of the questions I had for you was, if running a restaurant in the age of the internet and social media has changed the business in any ways that are
you mean like
significant to you?
Business?
Yeah, has that had an impact on the way you market, operate, that sort of thing? I'm just curious.
This year more than any other year, definitely was social media for me was. I finally bought into it more than I ever have before. It is very, very important. That's how you reach people. Print media, you don't get the bang for the buck. It's still important. Don't get me wrong, but the social media is the immediate impact. Especially if you're throwing pictures out there and things of that nature. So we'll be doing a lot more of that next year. But there's also a balancing act behind it. You can't do too much, then people just zone you out.
Yeah.
You can't do it too far in advance because then they forget about it. It's definitely, in social media is the way of the future for communicating. Any restaurant that's not doing it is kidding themselves.
Yeah. And one thing, I follow a lot of the different Facebook pages and social media profiles for businesses in our town and beyond. And I'm just thinking back to one particular posting that happened on your page. And like, I thought you were a real role model for how a business should handle feedback.
1,000%
from people. Like real quick, like, there was a customer who was unfamiliar with a certain style and cut of bacon, and what maybe wasn't
the
expecting.
Bacon post.
Yeah, the bacon post, and they expressed that online in the way that they did, and what I really loved was you had an opportunity to engage that person and just say, hey, just give me a call or reach out to me and we'll make it right. Like, I know.
But I think what Chris did that sets him apart is he took the time to educate the public in general about bacon and its different forms and the different, way that people can smoke it or cure it or not cure it. And, it totally took that, what could have been a negative, rant, which is the way that a lot of these posts happen on these town forums. And you turned it around completely and educated people and gave them something to think about their food, no, it's not the bacon you get on your Dunkin' Donuts breakfast sandwich. It's just not.
No, it's not. It's, that was interesting. There's always, in restaurants, you're never going to please everybody. You try like crazy.
Yeah.
And many times it's a little hiccup that happens, or it's somebody's having a bad day, and you never know what's going to happen. But I always say there's not one social media site that is going to fix whatever your issue is.
Mm-hmm.
Call me and I can fix it.
Yeah.
And we'll do whatever we can.
Yeah.
And so when I started typing that response, I'm thinking, okay, now our bacon is very different. It is completely different from bacon that you buy in the store. So let me take a moment to, like you said, Smoking Jen, to educate what we're doing at Chubby's, but also the differences and why it's different, how it's different. So, I was a little shocked at the responses that were coming in. It was very nice to see the responses that were coming in. But then the aftermath that people didn't see behind it. I got quite a few contacts, asking for advice on how to do their own at home and things of that nature. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Cool. That forever goes down as the bacon post.
The bacon post, yeah.
And I will have to say, you started Taco Tuesday, I think, during the pandemic.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So every Tuesday, I had to make sure I knew what kind of taco specials were that night.
I missed a post one Tuesday, and by noontime, I probably had 20 or 30 in my inbox going, what, no tacos today? What's going on? It's like, oh, geez, I forgot. I didn't forget to do the tacos. I just forgot to do the post. But yeah, that turned our worst day of the week into the best, second best day of the week.
Wow.
Yeah.
And it was really neat because we were able to give the town something else to talk about. I think during the pandemic was one of the biggest things that we saw was, okay, what's new, what's going on? Because let's face it, everybody was getting pretty well down in the dumps and getting bored, didn't want to travel too far to get stuff. And so, okay, let's try and think of something that we can do, get a little bit more excitement going on, and also gave my team and myself the avenue to be creative on a very short-term basis with items.
Yeah.
And so that's why you saw, I think we did 21 different styles of tacos.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
That was
wow.
the last count that I had. We always had two staples that we always did, the brisket and the blackened shrimp, and which you wouldn't normally see either one in a taco, but hey, it worked. And then when we would juggle around a couple different ones, I always try to throw in a vegetarian taco as well. And that way we were able to give a little bit more excitement to those people that didn't want to eat meat. Hey, that's fine. Let's give them someplace else to go.
Yeah, and they were pretty tasty, I gotta say.
Yeah, and I loved that the community panicked when you didn't make the post because that tells
no idea.
That says to me something about the importance of food in our lives and also the role a institution like yours and a restaurant can have in just lifting people up in a otherwise, I think like you said it, people were feeling really down. I think that's a wonderful, amazing thing, that something as small as tacos can help people, get from one week to the next.
Yeah. Oh, it
was neat.
I want to just jump. I know it's not. Yeah. It's sort of in the middle of all of your questions or whatever, but we didn't talk about it yet. But you do have a food truck that you started. I want to say 2 years ago now.
Yeah, it was not this past, but the June prior.
Yeah,
the June prior.
And one of the really, really, really cool things I think you did for the community was you offered the truck so that because we didn't have our annual Belchertown fair. And you offered the truck as a kitchen for which group was it? Now I can't remember.
It was the Christ Community Church, and the Methodist Church, in town for both of them. And I knew their brownie sundaes and their taco salads, that is their number one fundraiser for them for the year.
Yeah.
So I knew that they were struggling by talking with some of the members of each one of the churches. So was trying to come up with an idea of how could they still have their fundraiser, but also how could I give a little bit of excitement again to the town that was kind of bummed that we didn't have the Belchertown Fair.
Yeah.
And let's face it, I mean, that's a staple in this town, has been for centuries now.
Yeah.
170 years, 175, something.
Yeah, almost 200 years.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
So that got my mind going, but knowing the restrictions for the COVID and what the Board of Health would want to see, I knew that the truck was the answer to be able to get through, not necessarily the red tape, but to get through the process and the procedures that the Board of Health was looking for to have a safe event, but be able to do it in a way that was meaningful to the town, that was safe for the town, and also help the churches out.
Yeah. We need to give them a thing.
Oh, sorry. We have a yep.
You didn't use it at all.
Yeah. No, thank you, Stomping Jen. I appreciate the reminder.
Yeah. I just want to thank you for, that was an amazing thing.
Well, let me tell you, when we were about 15 minutes away, and keep in mind, they're all volunteers. Mm-hmm. Every one of them is a volunteer. And working on a truck is very, very different from a brick and mortar, from doing whatever they were used to doing for the fairs. Mm-hmm. And when I ever looked out, I took a peek out the windshield of the truck, and I looked down the length of the street, and the cars we were 15 minutes before starting, and the cars were almost down to McCarthy's.
Oh, wow.
That I think we better get this thing going.
Yeah.
And, oh boy, I just said to myself, oh boy, what did I do? But I got to tell you, they did phenomenal. Everybody had fun. We pushed out the orders as fast as we could. When a car comes up and orders 10 salads and 4 sundaes, it does take a little bit to get them out. Yeah. But I thought we were moving it pretty good. And, they had fun doing it. And the people in town, it seemed like they really appreciated it, which was pretty cool.
Did you have to train these other staff in how to operate inside of your truck and work in there?
Well, that was about a 30-second training. And really what I did was I told them how many people they could have on the truck. Mm-hmm. And they thought I was crazy because they would normally do the taco stand with 10 people. I said, well, you've got 3.
Yeah.
And with brownies, sundaes, well, you have 2. And so when they got on the truck, I said, okay, see this little square, this is where you stand and you don't move from there.
Yeah.
And so everybody has their box. Don't get outside of your box because there's no room to be outside of your box.
Right.
And that's it. And they learned very quickly that that's all they needed. Everything that they needed to do to put the food out was right there at their fingertips. And it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm thinking again, when in your description of the turnout, these food items that they were selling, which were staples of the Belchertown Fair, right? Everybody knows where you go to get the taco salad bowls. Mm-hmm. Everybody knows where the hot fudge sundae tent is. The fact that people could have those in this year, this difficult year, it was so meaningful to people, I think.
Yeah.
And thank you.
It was very uplifting.
Yeah. That's awesome. Now, how did you decide you wanted to open a food truck? That's a pretty bold move.
Yeah. If you think running a restaurant's challenging, try running a truck.
Put it on wheels and drive it around.
There's a whole nother gamut of challenges there. That's for sure. I think as the food truck craze has built, and as I traveled around the country, as I would try to go out on a food tour every year, I pick a different set of cities or locations or cuisine, and the food trucks started dominating that scene. Mm-hmm. And no matter where I went, and that's where you got some really cool, creative things happening out there. When you get a brick and mortar, it's challenging to change up what you're doing because you get established for certain items. So it's very hard to get outside that mix. With a food truck, that can be the case, or you can be as creative as you want. And you can change it up every day, your menu every day if you want to. And so I said, well, you know what? I think I'd like to, I don't want to get bored. I don't want to get bored just going to the restaurant. So let me see what I can do outside of it. And so the food truck was the idea. I bought a truck. It sat there in my lot for about 9 months. I kept on looking at it going, oh, what did I do? And it was not a food truck at the time. Let me tell you, it was a maintenance truck filled with, oh, geez, it was an old Snap-on tool truck.
Oh, wow.
Loaded with stuff inside. And I think I filled my dumpster twice with all the stuff that we took out of it.
You wouldn't know that. I have to say, your food truck, the Rustic Fusion food truck, is aesthetically striking and beautiful. I don't know. It's
thanks.
just, it doesn't,
Thank you.
it looks like it was designed from the ground up as a food truck.
He would send me pictures of it, the interior, and like it was all like silver with steel or whatever you were doing.
It was it took about 8 months to sat in my lot. Then I said, okay, I either need to sell this truck off, get rid of it, or I'm going to do it. So I said, okay, I'm going to do it. Well, of course, I said that in October. And so I worked throughout the entire winter in a steel box inside of a steel box, trying to get the truck done.
Yeah.
It took about 6 months of design that I kept on just drawing it out, trying to make sure that I had the equipment placement and sizing. And then you have to balance the truck, make sure that it's not overweighted in any area. Because keep in mind, you got to go down the road with this.
Yeah. Did you do all of that design work and building yourself?
Yeah. From every bit of it from the ground up.
Oh, wow.
From the plumbing, the electrical, the walls, the equipment placement. I went into about a dozen trucks and toured through them. And the only thing I got out of those walkthroughs was what I was not going to do in my truck.
Yeah.
So I had never worked in a truck before until the very first day that we rolled ours out.
Oh my God.
But I took the concessionaire mentality of staying in your box. So when I would set up concession locations at these sporting venues, you don't want your staff to move around. You want them to stand in one spot and have 80 to 90% of the items that they need to serve are within arm's reach. And that's when it becomes efficient. So that's how I started building the workstations within the truck and say, okay, well, for the fry location, this is their box, and the grill location, this is their box. So, it was a really neat endeavor to build the truck, and to have it come out like it did was really rewarding. I also didn't want it to look like a cartoon going down the road. Yeah. So that really wasn't my style.
Yeah.
It's not. It's not for people who are wondering, it's not a like giant hot dog. Chris's truck is Chris's Rustic Fusion truck. I would describe it as like a very like classically styled. It's just, I don't know, very tastefully styled truck.
Now I need a visual of it.
Yeah, we'll post a picture of it for people so they can see it.
I wanted people to feel comfortable if they wanted the truck to go there for a wedding and have it be classy enough to go for a wedding, or people feel comfortable with it at their backyard barbecue. Because Rustic Fusion is not branded to a particular item, I can do just about anything off of the truck. So depending upon what you want, pretty much I can probably find a way to do it.
Yeah, I'm looking at a picture now that Stomping Jen is showing me, and it's got kind of like a darkish, like
black.
Yeah, mahogany-ish black top, and kind of like a wood paneling image on the bottom. Like you said, it's like a very
Rustic Fusion.
It's a very very classy styling. And you mentioned like one of the types of events that you support is something potentially like a wedding or something else. And that had never occurred to me that your styling of the truck was very deliberate in that sense, that people would feel comfortable having that come to one of the most important events in their life. Yeah, I think that's brilliant.
That's the trend now for weddings. They're going to food trucks and to outside of the sit down, formal catering.
Yeah.
Because they want people to enjoy themselves.
Yeah.
How many times have you gone to a wedding and you're like, oh, okay, when is this thing going to be over? Or when's the bar getting shut off?
Yeah.
It's people are going to more casual. Well, let's face it, many people are on their second or third. So they're not interested in having that formal wedding. They want to have fun with their friends and celebrate their time.
Yeah.
And a food truck is perfect for that environment.
So you'll do and cater multiple, like almost. Is there any kind of you'll cater any kind of event that people are interested in having you at?
Yeah, if I can find a way to do what they want me to do, then we'll pull it off.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome. So besides the obvious, it's a restaurant on wheels, is there, does anything come to mind when you think about the differences between running a food truck and running like a brick and mortar?
Oh, absolutely. With a brick and mortar, you've got them there. They're there. They're going to you. They're sitting down, relaxing. And even though Chubby's is more fast paced, it's more casual. Other restaurants you go and you sit down, you might be there for an hour and a half. With the food truck, they walk up, they want to order, they want to get their food, and then go off and enjoy it. Mm-hmm. So with a food truck, your speed is paramount. Mm-hmm. You've got to be able to get the food out fast. Mm-hmm. And it's got to be good. It's got to be fresh. It's got to be exciting, whether in the packaging, in the display, in the taste, that initial appearance when they get it. So you've got to be able to tailor your menu for speed, and you've got to hit all the bases. You can't have speed but just have a sloppy product. You can't have a great product that takes 15 minutes to get out.
Right.
So with a food truck, you've got to, and there's so much work that goes into preparing for an event that most will never see or understand. But it'll take days to prepare for a major event, and then you've got another day breaking it down afterwards. Mm-hmm. Only for a 3-hour event or a 2-hour event. But that's where my experience running the sports and entertainment facilities came into play, is because when the gates open, you've got 70,000 people coming in. They're not going to hold the gates because you're not ready.
Right.
And you only have 3 hours to make all your money.
Right.
So you better be efficient. You better be fast.
Right.
You better be good. So I took that philosophy into the food truck as to, okay, each one of the stations, I had to balance the menu for the stations that we had, trying to guess what the customers are going to want to buy and be able to make sure that I'm not overloading any one location, because you can't just put 2 or 3 more people over there to help out because there's no room.
Right.
And so you have to balance the truck to the items that you're carrying and offering. And we tend to offer a larger menu than most, only because I tend to say, well, geez, I really want to do that, or I really want to try this. I know everybody's begging me for the hog balls and the cowboy sushi again.
Yeah.
That we did one time. We'll do them again another time.
Yeah.
But you have to have a basic understanding of food and business. But that's the only correlation between a brick and mortar and a food truck, because operationally they are so completely different.
Yeah.
You have to attack them differently.
Yeah, and then when you're not just doing a catering event, right? You're at like a food truck event where there's multiple food trucks. There's that weird balance that I've learned just from running food truck events now, from like having small bites, right? Because you don't want like people to be so full that they don't, because most of them want to taste like from different trucks, right? So having like small items that are fast that you can get. And then you're competing with all the other trucks too. So your menu has to really be appealing.
And creative. And that's that. I mean, Chris, I think that's one of the things you do really well. You mentioned the cowboy sushi.
Yeah.
Could you tell people what that is a little bit?
Okay. So, well, let me just digress back to the name Rustic Fusion and what the philosophy of the truck is. I came up with the name Rustic Fusion is you have the rustic, which is everyday items that people can recognize. There's nothing that's really over the top. Everything relates to an item that you've seen before. But the fusion part is just making that twist, adding a different element, a different cooking method, a different display, how you handle the product. It's joining a few different cuisines together. That's the fusion part. So everything is everyday items, but everything has a little twist to it. And so the cowboy sushi was one that I was playing around with. I think that was the Belchertown Fair we did that for. Mm-hmm. And what that is I take my slab bacon that we smoke off at the restaurant and we shingle that out flat. We take a seasoned hamburg and spice mixture, layer that down on top, and then different cheese blend in the middle of that. We roll that up into a log. And then what I'll do is I'll smoke that off. And then I'll cut it up just like you're getting rings of sushi.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and we presented it I bought actual sushi platters with the green grass and the fortune cookies. And so we would cut this log up after it's been smoked off, this meat and cheese log, and shingle it like sushi, served it with chopsticks with one of our barbecue sauces. And people just went crazy for it. They were sold before they even went onto the smoker in the batches because I can only fit so many at a time. And so I would have to tell them, okay, that's going to be coming off in 15 minutes. You have to be back here in 15 minutes and it'll be ready. If you're back here in 20, then you're going to be waiting for the next round. So it was pretty neat. It was fun to do. It added a lot of excitement. So we'll do it again. Yeah. We'll do it another time.
Yeah. And that was fun. That was exciting.
They were delicious.
They were delicious. I had never seen anything like it. I was like, who is the mad genius who invented this thing?
My team looked at me like, are you crazy?
Yeah.
No way.
And then you did those egg rolls that you did. The twist on
the egg rolls are just, that's one of those careful what you wish for. Oh my goodness. Again, I felt so bad last year at the Belchertown Fair because I couldn't even open on Sunday because we went through 70% of what I anticipated selling for the entire weekend. Wow. We did that on Friday night alone.
Oh my God.
Wow.
So, and the egg rolls, I can't even remember how many we went through, but it was thousands. Mm-hmm. So the egg roll, that was fusing a few different concepts. Also, when people go to a food truck, there's not a lot of places to sit down. So you've got to be able to hold the food with one hand and eat it with the other, or you're holding your drink with one hand and your food with the other. But the egg rolls really enabled people to try multiple items and multiple flavor profiles of the egg rolls and share. Mm-hmm. And so the egg rolls they're savory egg rolls. They're not your traditional Chinese egg roll. We've never done an Asian egg roll, actually. So we'll do our Thanksgiving, which has our turkey and that we roast off and stuffing and gravy inside. Or we'll do a chicken parm where we use fresh mozzarella, and we use the fresh basil and chicken and in a nice marinara. And these are all wrapped up inside the egg roll. And every one of them's handmade. We've done, I think we're up to 14 different styles with flavor profiles. Wow. We started doing some dessert ones where we did our apple pie, where I took the recipe of our apple pies when I was a kid, when we owned our country store in town, and we used to make fruit pies. So I took that recipe, made the filling, and then so it was actual Snow's apple pies inside an egg roll.
Oh my God.
Then I think the latest craze was our chocolate chip cookie dough egg roll.
We had one of those.
Yeah, we did. Do you
That'll put you to sleep.
Yeah. Do you know pretty quickly if a food item isn't going to work, like something that you want to try out, like a new idea?
Some have been out there on the fringes for me. Let's see if this sticks or not. And we've been pleasantly surprised. A couple have bombed. A couple they didn't say they bombed. They were just too far out there for people to want to really challenge it.
Yeah.
We did a spam sliders.
Those were good.
I loved those.
You love those. Yes, you had them.
Yeah.
They were. So we didn't sell as many as what I had hoped for, but we make the spam from scratch. It's not out of a can, but
spam from scratch, people. Come on.
Yeah, I was just actually talking with a friend of mine in our running group that he's from Hawaii. Mm-hmm. So I promised him the next batch we'll get together and have a spam fest. But anybody that tried the spam sliders absolutely loved them. I tested them out on a group of friends of mine. We get together every couple months or so, and I tend to do a lot of cooking at those events. And I brought these out, and almost everybody looked at me like I had four heads. I said, "Listen, just try it. Just try it. If you don't like it, you're not going to upset me at all." And before I knew it, they were gone. So those that tried it loved it. A little too far out there for most to really want to. I think I've got to call it something different other than spam, because everybody just like,
that's the kitschy part, though. That's the part that appeals to me, at least.
That's what appealed to me too.
Yeah.
What's that?
That's what appealed to us.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think another one that was kind of out there, but again, we did sell out, were our bacon cannolis.
We had one of those too. We're super fans, by the way.
You did.
Yeah. Yeah.
Jen's like, okay, I'll take one of those.
I'll confess, I was lukewarm on the bacon cannoli.
That was a rough one.
That was challenging for me.
That was challenging, yeah. So we haven't given up on it. We haven't given up on that. I actually had to do some for a private function. The people had asked for them.
But I love that you can try these ideas, right? And like put them out there and see what happens. That must feel pretty freeing, like as a person who's in this industry. It
is. That's why I did not want the truck to be branded at all. It gave me the ability to be very creative in what we do. And you never know. We have our I think we've refined down to our staple items that people are really expecting that we're going to have whenever we roll the truck out. But then I always try to throw in one or two or three items that they've never seen before, just to keep it fresh, keep them guessing. I don't want them to get too comfortable that, that's all we're going to have.
Yeah.
But so we've done the food truck events last year and this year in the town. We piloted the Food Truck Thursday event in town for the Cultural Council, and that was great. I was very, very happy to be asked to do that and to help come up with a safe means to have the food truck on the common and for other food trucks to follow behind.
Do you have sorry. I was going to ask, do you have any insight into where this creativity that you have around food stems from? Like, did you spend a lot of time in the kitchen when you were younger? I know you had, and you told us before about your experience in the larger concession type environment at huge events, but like, do you trace this back to, is there interests like before all of that? Like,
Well, growing up, a lot of my family members were involved with food in some aspect. So we had our country store that we did the baking, the pies, and the donuts, and the
right.
breads, and things like that. I had
wanna
an
know
aunt
more
that
about
ran
this.
catering and her own catering, and she had a restaurant. And I would go down and help her out. I think it comes down to I just love to eat.
Yeah.
And I love to try different things.
Yeah.
There's not one thing that I won't try. And typically I'll say I'll try it twice.
Mm-hmm.
If I didn't like it the first time, okay, I'll go back a second time. I'll try it out a second time and say, well, maybe it was just me the first time. Maybe I didn't understand it. But now it's gotten to the point where I really want to experience the different flavors and methods and styles of cuisine that's out there. It's just, and that is what so many cultures are built around, is the food.
Yeah.
You go on a vacation and you're going to be trying the different foods of these different countries. And that's what a lot of people talk about.
Yeah.
That is true.
Not just the beaches or what you saw. It's, oh my gosh, we had this when we were there. This is what we ate, and this was great. That's what people remember.
That's true. It's a great philosophy too.
I normally gain quite a few pounds when I go on these trips.
Yeah.
I think I gained 9 pounds on my barbecue tour down in Texas.
Yeah.
That must have been amazing.
It was. It really was. I spent a few hours in the pits with a couple of the pit masters down there. And lesson learned, don't go over 4th of July weekend to Texas and get a convertible. Don't do that. Not a good scene. But it was incredible. But that's what I tried to do when I go out on these little excursions.
When you were spending time down there with the pit masters, was this in preparation to learn how to smoke meats on your own and do it in a particular style?
Well, Texas is only one style. There's so many different styles of barbecue throughout the country. Texas has its own, but they're like the holy grail, supposedly, the Mecca of barbecue. And Austin, Texas is where it's at. So I started in Dallas and then drove down and stopped at places along the way, spent a few days in Austin, then drove back up to Dallas and then flew back out. Yeah. And it wasn't really in preparation for it because I'd already been doing it for a few years, probably 5 or 6 years, which is nothing compared to some people. Some people they're still in diapers and they're learning how to do it from their parents and their grandparents, things that are handed down. But I really wanted to see how it was done in Texas. How did they do it? And I didn't want to just read about it or go to a place up here in the Northeast and say, well, yeah, this is Texas barbecue. No, I wanted to see it firsthand.
Did you learn anything down there that blew your mind or you weren't maybe expecting to learn?
Oh yeah, how hot it is. How hot it is by those pits.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did. It was, now I'm going to these places that are, they're the pinnacle. They're at the very top of their game. And, but one thing that I learned was how down to earth just about every single one of these places were.
Were they welcoming
absolutely.
of you in terms of like somebody who wanted to observe and learn and take something away? Yeah.
There wasn't one establishment that wouldn't stop and talk to you about anything. Now, they weren't going to give up their recipes.
Right.
If you were truly interested in talking to them about it, they love to talk about their craft. And we're talking about taking pieces of meat that were basically thrown away and turning it into the most tender, most flavorful thing that you could possibly have. Yeah. And it's not easy to do. But if you do the same thing over and over and over, you nail it.
Yeah. And I know people
are nailing it. Go ahead.
Yeah. I was going to say, and I know to your point, I know there are people who have written doctoral theses on like the association or the emergence of like barbecue and class and poverty. And like you said, there were ways for people to take these like throwaway cuts of meat and do something like amazingly spectacular with them. Like I know people have done studies on that, and I guess you can go as far down into that rabbit hole as you want.
You can get pretty deep down that rabbit hole. That's for sure. I've read some of the books where it goes into the science behind the smoke and the chemical changes that take place, and why you get the smoke ring, that pink ring around the outside of the meat, and what that means, and what's the melting point for the sugars in your rubs, and what temperature do you basically, you're not smoking anymore, now you're just cooking, and why can your meat actually go down in temperature after 6 hours being in the oven, and all of a sudden it starts dropping in temp, and why is that? And it's pretty wild. It's not just these guys out there cracking open their 6-pack and they got a hog on the grill. They're not doing it just to sit there and get drunk. They're doing it because, hey, it's pretty darn good when it comes off.
Yeah, there is an art to it in addition to all of that other stuff. I think like an intangible element to it. I think. So, Chris, you smoke your own meats. What kind of process do you use to do that?
Let's see. At Chubby's, we cure and smoke our own bacon. We do our own brisket. Which is predominantly on the truck. We'll be rolling that out at Chubby's in some fashion here in the coming months. We smoke our own chickens. That will be coming as well. Our own turkey breasts. We do our smoked Brooklyn style pastrami and our pulled pork.
Wow.
We've done kielbasa. We've done sausages. We've done quite a few other things as well. So the process for me, it started with the pulled pork. That's the easiest one. It's the most forgiving of the items to smoke off. It took me about 14 months to refine that product to where it is right now. The spice profile, the procedure, the timing, and all of that changes depending upon the weather, because that affects your cook time and your smoke and your fuel and everything else. So it's a means to help me not get bored with just doing the same thing over and over by playing around with the smokers. I've got a smoker in the back that I bought last year that you could climb inside of. It's a little overkill for what we're doing right now, but we've got big plans for it. But you can literally climb inside. I have to get to the back of it. And when you talk with other people that are smoking meats for their restaurant or even just at their homes, there's so many different methods to, whether it's electric smokers, pellet smokers, charcoal, wood stick, whatever. And it doesn't mean that any one is better than the other. It just, that's the method that person is using and they'd like to use it. So, hey, it works for them. I use a couple different methods at the restaurant and that's what works for me. I like to sleep. I don't get a lot of it, but I do like to sleep. So, I don't like to stand next to a smoker for 10 hours smoking a brisket. I like to do other things. So I like to have those that are a little bit lower maintenance, where I can almost set it and forget it.
Set it and forget it.
Yeah.
But they're stick, charcoal, or pellet, one of the three. Let's see, what else can I answer for you about smoking meat? It's fun. It's a lot of fun.
How'd your venison come out the other day?
Oh my goodness. It was
right.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Sawtooth's eyes just got really big.
Yeah. Wow. No, Stomping Jen just turned into a deer in front of me. I was going to jump over there and bite her head off. Yeah.
So a neighbor of mine and his son, they got 3 deer in 5 days.
Wow.
And they're like, oh, what are we going to do? I said, well, if you want me to smoke something for you, let me know. Like, really? So, yeah. And I'm thinking, oh, geez, what did I get myself into? I've never smoked venison before. I have no idea what I'm doing. So, like, what I normally do is I'll get online, I'll start reading about it, and see what other people are doing. That's a great thing about smoking meats, is that it's been around forever. And all you have to do is ask people or look something up, read about it, and just start picking up on what other people are doing. And then you make it your own.
Right.
You can mimic what other people are doing, but you're always going to change something slightly for your own profile. So when I took on smoking the venison, that was a little nerve-wracking. Matter of fact, he came up to me the night before and said, "Chris, I know you've never done this before, so don't worry about it. I've got 11 more in the fridge. So if you screw this one up, don't worry about it."
Do you throw the whole deer in there, or do they butcher it first?
No. So we already quartered it down. So this was the rear quarter, which was the shoulder down through the leg.
Okay.
And deer can be a gamey meat. So the meat tends to taste like whatever they're eating. Mm-hmm. So depending upon what forest they're in or orchard or whatever, that's what they're going to taste like. So I wanted to make sure I got some of the gaminess out in case it was there.
And it's very lean too, right?
It's extremely lean. So you can dry it out like sawdust real quick, which didn't help with the nerves going into this.
Right.
So I ended up, I did a 24-hour brine. So I brined the meat. Okay. And what that did was it infused moisture into the meat and extracted some of those, the more harsh flavors that might have been embedded in the meat from whatever the deer was eating. And so it really mellowed the meat right out. And like I said, it infused the moisture. So when you brine an item, you're expanding the molecules. Yeah. And so it adds moisture inside the meat, inside the molecules within the meat.
Did you use like a spiced brine or like a herbed brine of some kind?
I just did a real basic one. Your basic brines are salt with sugar. And you've got to get the right mix down. You don't want it too salty. You don't want it too sweet. I just add some bay leaves, a few aromatics, very minimal, because I didn't want to mask the flavor of the meat. Right. So I didn't want to overpower it. I just wanted to be able to add some nice elements, some nice hints. I wanted to still have earth tones to it because it's a natural game. And so I did a 24-hour brine on that. Now, the thing with a brine is sometimes it can make the meat salty. So then I took that and I soaked it for another 20 minutes after it came out of the brine. And what that does, it helps to mellow down the salt. Yep. So you're starting to extract the salt out of the meat, but still lock in the moisture. After that, I knew one of the individuals I was going to be eating it's not big into high spice. So again, I wanted to stay nice and mellow. I used my Memphis sweet rub, and I used one other rub, just a generic rub that I use on ribs and such. Just give it a couple different depths and put it on the smoke with some nice apple and oak and let it do its thing. Nice. And then just sat back and twiddled my thumbs like, oh, please don't screw this up. It took about 5.5 hours, which was pretty fast, I thought. And again, don't want to overcook venison for sure. Yeah. So pulled it at 150 degrees and let it sit in the cooler, wrapped up for about 2.5 hours with a couple nice warm bricks inside, and just mellowed itself right out. Let all the moistures move in and out of the meat. Yeah. And fortunately, they said it was the best venison they've ever had. Which is great.
Did you get to taste any of it?
I did. Yeah, I was there carving it. There's a couple of sites that I'm on, barbecue sites on Facebook groups, and when I posted originally that I was smoking the venison, I did the same picture that I posted on the community forum or on my page, one of the two. And I got about 300 hits asking for how did it come out? Yeah. What was it like? Thinking, no pressure there now, is it? Now I've got everybody and these people are from all over the world. wanted to know how it came out. So it was very moist, very tender. Dryness, we didn't have to worry about that because some of the pictures I took, you can see the moisture just coming right out of the meat when I sliced it.
Oh my God, that sounds so good.
Are you drooling?
It was really good. I could spend another half hour just talking about that roast.
Oh my goodness.
But yeah, I tend to take on the challenging smokes. I know one year my family asked me to smoke a turkey for Thanksgiving, and I'd never done one before. I'm like, great. I've got the entire family coming in.
Yeah. No pressure.
Town. No pressure, and I got to smoke this turkey. It's, oh my goodness, what am I doing?
That is awesome. I
love that. It's I have my Achilles heel, and just about anybody that smokes meat or does this as a hobby, even they've got that one thing that they just can't get down right.
What's yours?
And mine are ribs.
Oh goodness.
Ribs I've done some really good ones. It's just getting the consistency down. I just haven't nailed it to what I know I want. I just can't find it yet.
Are you determined? Are you determined to get it right?
Can we be taste testers?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I'll give you a call. But we do quite a bit. We do a lot of brisket. We do these chickens that we're doing. We're going to be rolling those out. That's what I was going to do last week, actually, doing smoked chickens.
Oh, I can't wait to try those.
And I filtered a few out into the community to get some taste testers out there.
Yeah.
On the QT, people that I knew that were going to give me honest feedback. Okay, where was it? Was it good? Was it not?
Yeah.
What do you want? So, but I think we nailed that one. So we're going to roll those out. We're going to do some whole chickens that people can buy.
Is it hard to find honest feedback when it comes to testing your food?
No, because you just find people that and you tell them flat out, I don't care what you tell me. I just want the honest truth. And I think the people that I do hand things out to, they know I care enough that I really want to know.
Yeah.
If they don't like something, I want to know it, because when I go to sell it, I don't want to bomb.
Yeah.
They know that I want to do it right. So
it's so interesting too, because everybody has there's so many different kinds of restaurants because people have different tastes, right? Mm-hmm. So it's like, I just think about our own person. I'm always like, oh, I'm a food snob or whatever. And that's my own self-label that I put on myself. So do you give it to a bunch of different people that have different tastes so that you can get a more well-rounded idea of or do you just want to go for a specific
It's I'll pick people out of the blue. They won't even know it's coming.
Yeah.
And it's really about people that are going to give you honest feedback.
Yeah.
And it's not my buddies that I get together with every couple of weeks.
Right.
Sometimes they're going to tell me what I want to hear just because they know I'm going to be doing all the cooking the next time.
Right.
And they want more. Right?
But yeah, it's finding those people that are really interested. And one person I said, listen, I don't want you to eat this hot. I want you to wait to the next day. Mm-hmm. And I want you to then reheat it and tell me what you think.
Oh.
Or I want you to eat it cold and tell me what you think. Yeah. Because I know that's what people are going to be doing.
Right.
These are pretty big chickens. So you get 2 people, mm-hmm. 2 people can't eat half of one of these.
Yeah.
So they're going to be having it the next day. And how is it?
That is amazing to me. I would never think to do that. To think about what have somebody, like you just said, wait till it gets cold or taste it the next day. But that's a really important thing. Mm. That blows my mind, Stomping Jen.
Well, I'm full of ideas for Chris now. So. It's a bad, dangerous conversation.
What I've found is that people are... let's face it, people only have so much disposable income.
Yeah.
And people love to eat. Now, what I found is people don't have a problem spending money for food if they're going to feel like they have the value for what they're paying for, and it's meeting or exceeding their expectations in quality and flavor. And, mm-hmm. and also, the name of my restaurant isn't Skinny's. It's Chubby's for a reason.
Right.
Our items tend to have leftovers. Well, I want to make sure that they can enjoy their leftovers also. Mm-hmm. And so that, again, it adds to the value perception that people have for the products that you give. And people will travel. People will spend that, and it may seem absurd, but you go to a barbecue restaurant, and if you want a pound of brisket, you're paying $22 for that, and that's just the meat.
Yeah, I was just.
But
yeah, go ahead.
You get it, and you love it. You don't have a problem with it,
right? I was just thinking, like, like we pre-pandemic would travel all the way to BT Smokehouse out in the middle of the state. And they had lines for days because their meat was so good. And,
Yeah, but you bite into that brisket and you're transported.
It's so good.
You're just
it should melt.
Yeah.
It should melt in your mouth. And they do a phenomenal job down there.
Yeah, and food.
They really do.
And food has that ability for whatever it's doing to us, like as a living organism, like it has that ability to transport you, like, and make you, feel like everything's okay. Like in that, for those moments. Yeah, it is comfort.
It's true. It's true.
And so let's face it, you having that bad day and you get that good cup of coffee and you take that first sip and you're like, oh, I needed that.
True.
Yeah.
Or you sit there and you bite into a nice juicy burger and you're like, oh, thank you. Okay. And you just have that exhale. But really, when you get into the barbecue and you have that meat just melt in your mouth, and you don't need a knife. Yeah. If you need a knife, okay, something's wrong there.
Just
you
use
didn't
your
need
teeth.
it. If the guy did it, if that pit master did it right, then
yeah. And I'm super excited to hear you're experimenting and you're doing more, with barbecue. Both with Chubby's.
I'm waiting for my barbecue restaurant. I know you've got a lot on your plate, but I want my barbecue restaurant.
10 years ago, maybe.
Yeah.
But it's the thing that I hear the most is, Chris, I was at Chubby's. I didn't see you though.
Yeah.
I didn't see you there.
Busy. Busy man.
I got a great team. I let them do it.
Yeah.
So if I start adding too much, then I'm going to have to be there all the time. And I've got a couple other things on my plate that I have to attend to, so I can't be at any one spot.
Yeah,
I've got a couple other businesses. So
I don't want to let people. I want to let people know that not only do you do good barbecue, but you also have immensely amazing, delicious vegetarian options, like your Green Goddess burger that is our son's favorite thing ever. I mean, it's delicious.
I'm a meat eater, but I love that.
Yeah,
I love it, and I'll make sure I always have some on hand. Even at my house. And it's that was really. I'm always tweaking that one just a little bit. I haven't quite got the texture exactly where I want it to be, but I'm careful not to tweak it too much because it is so popular. I don't want to mess with it.
Yeah.
And what do I always get, Stomping Jen?
Oh, you always get a salad.
Right. But I love the way the chicken is cooked on that salad.
Of course.
Like I love it.
Yep. Yeah.
It's a simple. So there are lots of things.
Other options
for people.
If you're not a meat eater.
So thinking towards the future, Chris, do you have thoughts about what's in store for Chubby's?
Well, that's a tough one. There's always, I always have things going through my mind, but one thing that has changed us is obviously the pandemic. And though I think everybody has got, holding their breath and keeping their fingers crossed that we've got these vaccines that are going to be coming out and they're going to do exactly what everybody's hoping for. That said, I think it's forever changed us in so many different ways. And the restaurant industry is no different. It's changed the way that people eat. It's changed the way that the restaurants do business. And so it really is a wait and see to try to figure out what is the post-pandemic wants. Yeah. What's society going to want? Are people going to feel comfortable sitting in a crowded restaurant even 2-3 years from now? We don't know that.
Yeah.
So what I'm trying to do now is is to continue to figure out how can we not lose focus of what we've been doing at Chubby's that has been very successful, but then also how do we give some different options for those that family of 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever, that wants to eat together but get takeout. That those family meals, the family style, so we can just give another element, I guess, to the town. That's really where I see. That's where I see our changes for this coming year, because I think we're all going to be. We're not out of the woods. Anybody that says that we are, I think we're fooling ourselves. So let's play it safe. Let's give it time to hopefully cure ourselves of this. And in that time frame, well, we've got to meet the needs as a restaurateur. You've got to meet the needs of what your public's asking for.
Yeah, I think that's really wise. And, I've had lots of conversations with Stomping Jen. Like, I don't know when I'm going to go back to a movie theater. Like, I don't know when I'm going to feel comfortable in a restaurant, but I would eat the hell out of a whole cooked chicken from your place. Like, I would pick that up and do, like you just said, like a family style meal. Like, that would be something that, I could see us doing, maybe once a week, as we're in a recovery mode until we're comfortable going back to a brick and mortar. So I think
I'm so sick of cooking for our family.
I got to give you a plug on these chickens. So they are done on my smokers, and a lot of people are like, I don't know if I want smoked meat or smoked chicken, but it is such a very subtle smoke to it. It's there, but it's not one of those that you're going to be tasting an hour later.
Yeah.
That's what I don't like about smoking meats is that afterburn or the aftertaste. I don't want to smell like it later.
Right.
These chickens it's that perfect balance. Got a little sweetness, got a little spice. I tell you, these are, they're pretty good. They're pretty good. So, those are unfortunately, because I can only do so many, I think I can do 40 at a time.
Okay.
So if they become too popular, I'm going to have to do advanced orders.
Yeah, I was going to say, but I could totally see that. Like, in terms of meal planning, that I could see us saying, the second week of whatever March, we want to order, we want the smoked chicken meal, like from Chubby's for takeout, like something like that. Like
we did for Taco Tuesday.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. I'll just have to have a different day of the week for you guys.
That's right.
Catch you guys on Tuesday, get your fish and chips on Friday. Yep. Then we're going to go into, I don't know what day on the other stuff.
I don't think that I've never had the fish and chips.
I got it a couple times. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep. I love it. I'm one of those people, like if I eat a meal like that, I'll put on a couple of pounds. So I'm very careful about how often I eat those types of foods. Yeah. So I try to, now that I'm past my mid 40s, I'm a little more mindful of how much, how much of that I'm eating. How about the food truck? Anything on the horizon that you're thinking about there that you want to tell us about?
Well, the food truck, I'm very careful on where I roll it out and when I roll it out. This year, if the town didn't ask me to bring it out and to pilot their event, I probably would not have even brought it out just for the safety of my team. But we spent a lot of time trying to figure out how to do it the safest way possible for both the patrons and for the team. For the food truck, it is... we'd love to have the Food Truck Fridays back in again. And and from what I've seen and what I've talked with other food truck operators, the Belchertown Food Truck Festival on Fridays it's one of the biggest ones around.
Stomping Jen.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Huge hit. Yeah. But where's that button that you guys pushed?
Oh, yeah, that's right.
There you go. Yeah. So I've tried to stay out of the breweries and the wineries, but I can see that becoming, that's probably going to be the next hit for us is going to start doing some of those. I don't want it to take over too much of the time. because I still need to be able to invest time in the restaurant. And, well, let's face it, I still want to have a life too.
Yeah.
Right.
So
Yeah.
I definitely don't want to be out there every single night doing it.
Yeah.
On the truck, I'm typically always on the truck whenever
Yeah.
it rolls. So we're not there yet to just wheel out another team on the truck and let it go.
Speaking of your life, what do you like to do when you're not restaurant touring or food trucking? Like, what do you like to do? What do you like to do for fun?
I think everybody sees on my posts in the mornings, I'm typically one of the first ones up in the town, I think. So we do a lot of hiking. So we're getting out there first in the morning. It is just beautiful to get out before sunrise. It is so peaceful. You can't say that in many towns because there's so much activity, but in Belchertown, it's very quiet.
Yeah.
You can be out on the streets. You can be out in the woods. I do need to be a little cautious sometimes about what else is out there. But,
Oh no.
yeah, we've had a couple run-ins.
Like with bears or wild animals?
I haven't actually seen the bear, but we knew it was just on the other side of a bush. You could tell it was there. We had a coyote push us right off a hill one time.
Oh God.
Right back to our car.
Oh, wow.
But like I said in the beginning, I try to get out pre-dawn. Tomorrow morning we'll get out. We'll probably be on the trail by 6:10.
God.
First 20 minutes or so we'll be pretty much in the dark and with our headlights and then try to get to the top of either Mount Skinner or some of the Seven Sisters or something like that. Try to get to the top of one of the hills before dawn. You can see the sunrise come up.
So pretty.
I am so envious of all of you early morning activity people.
Wait.
You just got to get up and do it.
Yeah.
That's the thing. And there are mornings that we're like, oh no. Yes, this morning was rough. This morning was a rough run. But we're part of a running group, and it's no egos. It's any skill level. Of course, the first meeting that I did with them, and I was told, well, that's where we're going to run right there. As we're standing at the bottom of Mount Tom.
Yeah.
Like, you've got to be kidding me.
I
I don't even know these people, and this is what I'm doing. Oh, geez.
I would have noped right out of there.
It's a great time. And so it's really about getting out there. You're distant, social distancing because we spread out and get your masks on.
Yeah.
Is this a new hobby for you?
It is. Yeah. It is since about May.
Wow.
And so my girlfriend and I, she gets out. She's been doing it for years. And we went up, hiked Acadia. And hiked
so beautiful up there.
Yeah. So every day we went out and did probably two or three hills.
Did you hike up the Beehive?
Oh, yeah.
So that, I've told this story on this podcast before. I had a panic attack on the Beehive and I abandoned Stomping Jen up there. Halfway up.
With a pole, with a hiking pole.
A couple of German tourists rescued her and they brought her to me and found me quivering behind a boulder. Yes.
That was a rough one. That was the last morning we decided to do it before we drove back. And that was after a few days of just nonstop going up just about every hill that was there, I swear.
Yeah.
So the legs were a little tired at that point in time. And there was a couple guys that they were frozen on the side and they weren't moving.
Yep.
The thing is that you had to go around them.
Oh my God.
I think I might still be up there.
That was a bit challenging. And I used to do some crazy stuff when I was in the service. So but that's when you're hooked up to things. Yeah. You're not hooked up to anything.
What branch of the service were you in, Chris?
I was in the Army.
Oh,
Army
me too.
Reserve.
Me too.
Yeah.
Yep. Many
good
years
times.
ago. That's awesome.
A lot of neat stuff. A lot of neat things. Had a lot of fun.
Yeah. All right. Well, our last question for you is one that we have been asking everybody, and you can interpret this any way you want. So, what have you seen that you cannot explain?
Don't do it.
I'm going to play some spooky music here.
With respect to restaurants?
Anything.
Yep, anything.
Ooh, wow.
It could be
That's a deep one.
supernatural. It could be political. It could be
It
anything.
could be anything. He just plays the spooky music.
Oh boy, that I can't explain.
Yep.
Oh boy.
It's a real on the spot kind of question.
I know.
That is a tough one. That's a tough one. I can't understand why more people aren't out in the morning at sunrise.
That's a good answer.
That doesn't qualify, does it?
Yep, that's perfectly
That's
acceptable.
a good answer.
Yep.
He's really
Yeah.
looking. He's looking for the Sasquatch and the aliens.
Yep. No, thank you.
Hey, the Sasquatch, that is the best hide and seek player there ever could be.
Yep, absolutely.
He's the winner.
Yep. And thank you for answering it and being a good sport. Yeah, it's sorry for putting you on the spot. But
no worries.
We have got some amazing answers to that question though over the episodes. So, but some people say nothing.
Yeah.
I can explain everything. So we've
Or I can't think of something right
Yeah.
now because it's a pretty heavy question.
yeah, but we've had
I'll give you an answer. I may be pulling it out of somewhere, but I'll give you an answer to anything.
yeah. Well, is there anything you wanted to share with us or tell us that we haven't touched on?
Yeah. Anything you want?
Anything you want to plug? Anything?
I would say, let me say this: when it comes to barbecuing, don't be afraid of it. Try it. And you don't need to go out and spend thousands of dollars on a smoker. It's about trying it, having fun with it. You're going to screw it up. Don't worry about it. And just keep at it. And because you can have a lot of fun with it. And, you get people over and you enjoy it. Once you figure out how to do ribs or to do a brisket and you do it really well, then all of a sudden, hey, now your confidence level goes up and you start trying something else. So whether it's smoking meat or cooking food, don't get in the rut. Try to get out of the rut and just, go on to Pinterest or go open up a cookbook and say, okay, I'm going to try this. And like I said before, you're going to mess things up, but that's fine. There's always takeout. You can always go to Chubby's.
Yep.
If we're open, but give it a shot and just try new things. And when you travel somewhere, plan to eat. Don't just plan your activities. Plan where you're going to experience the food of wherever you are, whether it's in another country or in our country alone. No matter where you go, it's a different cuisine.
Yeah.
So you don't even need to leave this country to find so many different aspects of food, and just really go out there and experience it.
I love that. That is such great advice. And it's advice that you can apply to like multiple areas of your life too. Like I love that.
Get your kids involved with it. Don't just, granted, again, I love having them come in and having the popcorn chicken or whatever at Chubby's, but get them out there to try different things. And you'd be surprised what they're going to like.
It's true.
Yeah. All right. Well, Chris Snow, owner of Chubby's Ice Cream and Grill in Belchertown, the Rustic Fusion food truck and catering. Thank you for talking to us. I cannot believe an hour and a half has passed by. This is one of those conversations, I sometimes say this, where I look down and I can't believe how much time has passed. So it's been an absolute joy talking to you. People listening to this, we're going to put all of the links to Chris's restaurant and food truck in the podcast show notes. We'll be posting them in the different social media posts so you can check everything out.
Yep.
Listeners,
thank you guys for having me.
yes, thank you. And thank you for taking the time to talk to us. And listeners, we have to say this, right, Stomping Jen?
What are we going to say tonight?
We love you.
We love you.
Thank you for listening.
Thank you.
right?
We can't do it without you.
Well, we could.
You're like screaming into the void.
It's better when they listen and they
share and
subscribe and download, right? I like seeing those download numbers.
Yeah.
Right?
Excellent.
I love it.
All right.
I love seeing it. So
be safe out there. Get your vaccine. Wear a mask.
Yep. All of those things. And finally, Stomping Jen, we say what?
Bye now.
Bye now.
Good evening, my fellow Americans. America knows that this world of ours, ever growing smaller, must avoid becoming a community of dreadful fear and hate. Those who have freedom will understand also its heavy responsibility. That all who are insensitive to the needs of others will learn charity, and that the sources, scourges of poverty, disease, and ignorance will be made disappear from the earth. And that in the goodness of time, all peoples will come to live together in a peace guaranteed